Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through my picks for Precon upgrades for Deep Clue Sea, which is a very clever pun. Clever name. Deep Blue Sea was a movie, I believe, with Samuel L. Jackson, if my memory serves me correct. But Deep Clue Sea is a Precon. Regardless, with all that said, let's jump into the Commander and my picks. So first up, let's talk about the Commander and what you might want to do with this one. I mean, what things to take from the actual Precon, maybe what adjustments to make on your own. I'll give you a couple different options. Anyways, a 2/3 Vidalcan Fish Detective for 3 mana in Bant. You have no maximum hand size. Nice! Beginning of your upkeep, investigate. And also, whenever you draw your second card, each turn, put 2 counters on it. So, this is a commander that wants you to consistently draw, and it provides you with some card advantage with that clue that it gives you on your upkeep. So essentially, yeah, I mean, on your turn, you can guarantee that you will draw 2, as long as you pay that 2 to sacrifice that clue to draw your second card. That being said, on your opponent's turns, you're on your own, essentially. Again, having no maximum hand size, though, is huge in allowing you to just draw as many cards as you want and never have to discard them, so you just have an obnoxiously large hand, and you're like, oh, let me take 5 minutes to decide what I'm going to do because I've got so many options. I mean, don't do that. Have a plan. But still, when you are drawing your cards again, you're drawing your second card on your turn, you get those 2 counters. Do so on your next opponent's turn, 2 more counters, and so on and so forth. So with each trip around the table, in a regular game of Commander where there are 4 players in total, you have the potential, as long as you draw 2 cards on every single player's turn, which is amazing if you can do that, obviously, and there are plenty of ways to actually do that pretty consistently. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. Yeah, you can get this to be absolutely massive. Again, that is 8 counters with each trip around the table, making this into, it just with the one trip around the table in a, 10, 11? So nearly a 2-shot KO commander, almost there. Potentially a 1-shot commander, KO commander with some help too. So yeah, this is a commander that is incentivizing you to draw a lot of cards, utilize your hand effectively, and of course, maybe play around with some counters, and maybe also just get an absurd amount of counters on this so that can become a Voltron-style TKO for your opponents. So yeah, this is a crazy commander. And let's talk about some budget cards they might want to consider that were not included in the Precon to upgrade it, and some non-budget cards as well. First up, a big potential miss is 500-Year Diary, a newer card, and a legendary artifact clue for 4 mana, enters the battlefield tapped. Tap for blue for each clue you control, pay 2 to sacrifice this. So, with this kind of a commander, you might be incentivized to go a little bit like Clue Tribal-esque, essentially. Get more and more clues into play and utilize them, and when you do so, hey, tap this for an absurd amount of mana, even if you're just not, you know, sacrificing the clues your commander gives you, because again, we've got other ways to draw, essentially, right? We can utilize this for absurd amounts of mana. Basically, 1 extra mana every single turn we are going to be getting from something like this, with just this, plus our commander. Plus, hey, Tamio's Journal. Yeah, that too. Legendary artifact for 5. Behavior upkeep, investigate. So again, basically the exact same thing as our commander. On top of that, tap, sacrifice 3 clues, go tutor for any card, essentially. So yeah, exchange those clues for something potentially even better. Maybe we even have some ways to benefit off of sacrificing our clues in other ways. So yeah, it can be a crazy good card for us for both card selection, clue, tribal effects, and also, yeah, just crazy good tutoring. Next up, Bounty of the Lexa. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all flood counters from it. If no counters move this way, get a flood counter on it and draw a card. Otherwise, add 3 mana, colorless, and Simic colors, essentially. So basically, hey, either way, this is going to benefit you. If you're drawing that card, great. Again, you drew your second card in that turn. It's a somewhat repeatable effect, I guess, repeatable every other effect in a way. So you can actually get those counters on your commander, or again, get mana, so you can actually sacrifice those clues that you might have in play, or get other things out. Speaking of mana, though, Frontier Siege. You're going to be choosing cons on this one on ETB. Beginning of each of your main phases, add green to your mana pool. Again, that is each of your main phases, not just your first one. So, hey, 4 free mana on your turn once this is in play. Lovely. Utilize it for a lot of fantastic things, of course, including potentially sacrificing clues, basically, again, for free, you know, twice a turn. Next up, Jacob Hawken Inspector. So we're going to be utilizing some other kinds of ways to actually draw cards, because There are ways that we can pretty easily actually draw cards on our opponent's turns, and on our turn as well, but I'm really talking about our opponent's turns, but we really want to take advantage of this so we can actually get that trigger off of our commander. That might not necessarily give us card advantage, but they do give us card selection. Tap, draw a card, exile a card from your hand, face down, look at it for as long as it remains exiled, pay 6 mana to transform it. Again, basically, you're not going up on cards with this. Again, tap, draw a card, cool. That's 1 of 2 cards I need to actually draw for my commander to trigger, which is great. I'm halfway there, but also I exile a card, so I'm not up a card. That being said, yeah, if I get the backside of this, I can utilize those cards. Beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. Once during each of your turns, play a land or cast a spell from among the cards for free with this. So yeah, this can set yourself up for that. Regardless, there might be some ways like a Teferi's Aegis Insight or Thought Reflection to really double up on your draws too. So essentially, anytime you draw 1 card, you're drawing 2. You get your commander's trigger. Keep that in mind. Next up, Magus Library. This one might be tricky. So again, depends on your build, depends on what you want to do with it. But tap, draw a card. Only if you have exactly 7 cards in your hand. So you might be much more than that. Again, depends on how you want to utilize the cards in your hand. If you're trying to just draw a ton of cards at once, then yeah, you might be up to like 13, 14 cards in your hand. You're not near anywhere to 7. Plan on sticking around 7 though, yeah, you can utilize something like this. Or how about easier, Merfolk Looter? Again, tap, draw a card, discard a card. Not going up in card advantage, but is giving you fantastic card selection, and again, helps you get halfway there to your commander's trigger. And if you got 2 of these essentially in play, I mean, there's different kind of Merfolk Looter type effects, you'll get there. Or Zimone Quantix Project can get you there on her own. First of all, you can get lands from your hand on the battlefield for just 1 mana and tapping this, so that's great. On top of that, pay 4, tap, draw a card. If you control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. You're going to get to 8 or more lands. You're in Bant, which is Simic, essentially, plus white. So there you go. You're going to get there. Next up, Pen of Prosperity. Your opponent's going to actually help you out with this. Enters the battlefield. You give an opponent this. They pay 2, tap, draw a card, get a land from their hand on the battlefield. You do the exact same thing. So again, gets you halfway there for your commander's trigger and also helps you ramp, which, what's not to love about that? Again, of course, you're going to have lands in your hand. You're going to be drawing an absurd amount of cards. Archivist, another simple card. Tap, draw a card. Get you halfway there. Sheffield Broker. This one, again, is not card advantage, like, you know, the Archivist, I forgot the name right there, just talked about it, but this one is fantastic card selection. Tap, draw 2, discard 2, so again, gets that, checks the box, allows you to hit that for your commander every single time, get those on your commander, counters on your commander consistently. Other Atlas, if you're okay with more of like Howling Mine type of cards, which benefit your opponents, this one can definitely help you out. Tap, put a charge counter on it, tap each player draws for each charge counter on it, get this to 2 charge counters. Very easy for you to do. Again, you can definitely use proliferate effects with this kind of a commander to ensure that you are getting more counters on it and also getting more counters on this. So being able to tap this, everyone draws 2. Cool. I always will hit that amount then for my commander. Or how about just Arcanus Omnipotent, a crazy good card. I love this one. Tap, draw 3 cards. One of my favorite cards from my childhood. And yeah, it will make sure that you are getting card advantage, again, which you get to hold on to thanks to your commander, and also growing your commander at the exact same time. Speaking of growing, how about Druid class? Whenever a land is battlefield under control, you gain 1 life. That's nice. More importantly, level 2 is what we care about. Play additional land on each of your turns. That is massive. That is huge. And again, with no maximum hand size and a lot of draw effects, we can ensure that we hit our land drops and hit our additional land drops too. So we've got an absurd amount of mana, which of course can help us utilize those clues effectively. Next up, Land Scout. Again, another way to do this essentially, but on our opponent's turns as well. Tap a land card from your hand on the battlefield. Do it at instant speed if you want to. Great. And of course, we have some landfall things we can talk about here in a little bit to take advantage of. But yeah, being able to tap and utilize that effect, that can be absolutely huge to get us out of our opponents and utilize those lands in our hand. Speaking of which, Mercfiend Leech. We've talked about a lot of creatures already that have tap abilities. This can help us take advantage of them. Other green creatures you control get +1. Other blue creature you control +1. Untap all green and or blue creatures you control during each of the player's untap step. So again, with all those tap effects that we've been talking about, utilize them on every single player's turn. Again, if you have Cephalid Broker in play, congratulations. You are hitting your commander's trigger every single turn. Be able to get 2 counters on it because, hey, I get to tap that, I get to discard or draw 2, discard 2, and then all of a sudden hit that, undo it on each turn. Undo it, untap on each turn. Obviously, like a Seedborn Muse would be a better card than this one at a much higher price tag, but still, this is very good. Next up, Jadzi, Oracle of Arcavios. Front side is nice. More importantly, though, on the back side, we've got Journey to the Oracle. Put any of your land cards from your hand on the battlefield. Then if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, bounce this back to its owner's hand. Yeah, again, you're gonna have the potential to get an absurd amount of cards in your hand with this no maximum hand size. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'll pay 4 mana, dump 8 lands into play, and get so far ahead of my opponents that their heads will spin. This can be a great effect, of course. Next up, Triskai Decaphile. I probably said that wrong. A 1/3 human wizard. You have maximum hand size, so it's nice to just have an additional effect potentially. Again, if your commander gets dealt with, you're not having to discard your hand, which is nice. At the beginning of your upkeep, though, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. You can also pay to draw a card. So again, once you've got an absurd amount of mana, you can just draw 2 cards with this on an opponent's turn if you really want to get that trigger. Also, though, yeah, a win condition for you. Pretty easy to get to, again, when you have no maximum hand size already. You can just sneak this into play. Not really sneak it into play, but you can already be at 13, essentially, before playing this. Play it, protect it in a multitude of ways, and then win once you get back around to your turn. Or if you got Vedalken Hori, then you can just cheat into play. Not cheat into play, but play it out of nowhere, and then win out of nowhere. Next up, pull for tomorrow. Draw X cards, discard a card. It seemed like a lot of these like giant draw spells were somewhat missing, and if you want to lean into, I mean, just depending on clues to draw cards, cool, but also, yeah, you can just decide that, hey, I'm going to really take advantage of having the maximum hand size on my commander, and then I'm going to draw a certain amount of cards with things like this, especially again since I am in green and have access to so many great ramp spells and ways to get lands into play that I'm going to have so much mana. Drawing an absurd amount of cards can be great, and having a hand with 25 cards feels pretty good until you're actually just looking through and be like, I don't know what I should be doing right now. But yes, it's a lot of fun. Next up, Sphinx of Revelation. Again, basically a massive draw spell that also gains you life, so pad your life total too. This one, though, Universal Surveillance, is pretty interesting. Keep in mind, it is at sorcery speed. That being said, improvise. Your artifacts can help you cast a spell, which of course includes those clues that you are going to be making, and any other artifacts you might have too. That being said, yeah, make a lot of clues, utilize them all for basically mana for this. You can get a lot out of something like this. Speaking of a lot out of, Body of Knowledge, a huge threat for you. Power and toughness each equal to the number of cards in your hand, which again can be massive because you have no maximum hand size. And again, this says, like Triskai Decaphile, you have no maximum hand size. So it's a nice backup for your commander that in case your commander is dealt with, you still keep holding onto those cards. And you get even more cards with this. Whenever it's dealt damage, roll that many cards. So your opponents are going to be wary of ever swinging at you with anything large because you'll just block it and then draw an absurd amount of cards with this. And yeah, you could also just, like, you know, instant speed, draw a lot of cards too with a lot of effects, and then all of a sudden, you know, take out whatever big creature that they were swinging with. And if you swing with this, your opponent better hope they don't have a big creature to block with. Next up, Return of the Wild Speaker. Speaking of a big creature, this one, I don't believe, it is in the precons, but I believe it was in another precon. Please correct me in the console if I'm wrong on that. I think I did my math correctly when I looked up that, but if I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. Draw cards with the greatest power among non-human creature control. Obviously, your commander is not a human. Again, if it's already in the precon, my apologies. I don't think I missed that, but also, same thing with Duelist Heritage, actually. I believe Duelist Heritage is actually in another precon as well. That being said, whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. Yeah, a great reprint in one of those precons, but also, hey, this commander, again, can very easily, again, like I said earlier, with one trip around the table, if you're set up properly, you can get 8 counters on it, making it into a 10-11. Giving it double strike makes it hit for 20. You just get even one more counter on it, just one more, it's hitting for lethal commander damage with one shot. Takes not a lot of time at all to get there, so good luck to your opponents once you're set up properly with double strike. A Fire Shrieker, of course, is another way to do that, giving your commander double strike just on an equipment. Flaming Fist, yet another great way too. An enchantment background. Commander creatures you control have when other creature attacks against double strike until end of turn, which is actually kind of funny because it's own, which means that if an opponent steals it, they get that effect too. That being said, yes, being on enchantment is harder to deal with than most things, like say, I don't know, like an aura. But yes, being able to have this in play and ensure that your commander will get double strike when it attacks, that can be absolutely huge because, yeah, you can take your opponents out quite quickly. Next up, Throne of Geth. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Proliferate can help you too. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, Proliferate, so you can actually utilize your clues with something like this to sacrifice them to get even more counters on your commander and other things as well if you've got other things with counters. The Roaming Bird, another creature that can basically proliferate repeatedly. Deals combination to a player, Proliferate, it's going to get through. It's got flying, so yeah, being able to proliferate each turn. Or if you really want to speed things up, Evolution Sage. Gross. Landfall. Whenever a land is about for your control, Proliferate. This is a huge card for a commander like this because, again, yeah, we already talked about ways to get an absurd amount of lands into play, ways to take advantage of that. And now with this, you're like, oh, also, sure, I'll just get an absurd amount of counters on my commander as well. Oh, goodness. I thought I had Tatiova in here, but I'm not seeing it right now. Tatiova, a great landfall commander to consider as well for this in the 99. Land enters the battlefield, draw a card and gain 1 life. Consider that. And I'm probably going to find it later. They already have it in the deck. Anyways, Levitation, another card to consider as well. Creature control have flying. Yeah, it's a fantastic effect. One that says, hey, you know what? My commander has no evasion at all. Neither do any of my other creatures. But now, just by getting the simple enchantment in play, all my creatures have a form of evasion that can typically get them through on at least one opponent, sometimes all opponents. And again, when your commander can become a one-shot KO, just having this in play, even if your commander is still small, teeny tiny, you have the potential, of course, to just get those counters on it, give it double strike, and swing to hit your opponent for probably just one-shot KO to take them out. Next up, Martha Jones. This one says, when it enters battlefield, investigate, so get an extra clue, which is nice. On top of that, whenever you sacrifice a clue, it and up to one target other creature can't be blocked this turn. Guess who we're going to be picking? Again, we've got those clues that we're making with this and also our commander, of course. And with those clues, we can make this unblockable, which is nice. But more importantly, our commander can become unblockable to really take opponents out. But now let's move on to the pricier picks. And again, when it comes to getting through with our commander, yeah, one that is just outside of my budget, barely, $1.16. Herald of Secret Streams. Creatures you control with a +1 counter on them can't be blocked, essentially. I just said that completely wrong, but basically that's what it does. Hey, our commander is very easily going to have counters on it, right? And therefore, it's going to be unblockable, and being unblockable, it can become a massive threat. Again, that can be a 2 or even 1-shot KO. We can get there even quicker, though, with Hardened Scales, a very simple 1-mana enchantment. If one or more counters we put on a creature you control, that many +1. So basically, again, instead of getting 2 counters on our commander, when we draw that second card, it's going to be 3, making it 50% more effective. And of course, hey, if we have any of those other proliferate effects that we're utilizing, they are doubly as effective, essentially. I mean, the math, but yes. Moving on, Branching Evolution. If one or more counters we place on a creature controlled, twice that many of those counters are instead. Yeah, this is just strictly better than that. I mean, it is higher up, 3 mana versus 1. That being said, yeah, whenever we draw our second card each turn, our commander gets 4 counters on it, getting it there so quickly. Again, with each trip on the table, the potential to get 16 counters on it. For just having a 3-mana enchantment in play, that is pretty crazy. Also crazy, of course, Doubling Season. Woo! Boring card. Anyways, so in effect, but it doubles up your tokens, it doubles up your counters. I'm not going to go through the whole card. You know what it does most likely, but yes. Instead of just getting 1 clue now, you get 2, which is lovely. Whenever you draw 2 cards in a turn, you get 4 counters on your commander. Huge. Yeah, also speaking of huge, how about Technothal, Inquiry Dominance? If you proliferate twice instead. Again, if you are going in that proliferation route, congratulations. You've got another great way to do that and to ensure that you are getting even more counters on all your things, including your commander as well. You can also pay 1 blue, Phyrexian Blue, I should say, blue. Remove 3 counters from among artifact creatures, planeswalkers you control. Get an indestructible counter on this. It's probably going to be worth it, even if it's your commander, removing some of those counters to ensure that this can actually just stay in play a lot longer with that indestructible counter. Moving on, True Conviction, another great enchantment to have in play. This one will not give your commander, like flight, like a levitation. It's not gonna be like, hey, fly over those other creatures. No, it's like, no, smash them in the face with double strike and lifelink. So again, being able to hit twice over with your commander is huge. Again, maybe a 2-shot or even 1-shot KO. Lifelink, pad your life total, and then some. Again, think about just hitting an opponent for like 22 damage and then being like, oh, I gained 22 life. Thank you. And again, this counts for every single one of your creatures. Another enchantment to consider, though, is Paradox Haze, an aura enchant player. If you enchant player's first upkeep each turn, the player gets initial upkeep step after this step. Being able to just get 2 clues instead of 1, that can be a very valuable thing. There you go. And also with Tamiel's Journal, get 4 instead of 2. Next up, take advantage of your commander's power. Overwhelming Stampede. Until end of turn, creature control gain trample, get +X/+X. Until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So again, if we are a commander up to an absurd amount of power, which we're benefited to doing so, hey, yeah, pump your entire team and swing out to take them all out. Pathbreaker Ibex basically does the exact same thing, but on an attack trigger. So essentially, hey, all of our creatures get absolutely massive every single combat. It's going to be crazy. Speaking of crazy, traverse the Outlands. Go get X-based lands where X is the greatest number of creatures you control. Raise power among creatures you control, I should say. Put those cards in the battlefield, then shuffle. Just a massive ramp spell that can potentially get all your basics out of your deck. And again, if you're playing with a good amount of basics, which you should be, you're going to have like 22 lands in play at least, probably. Maybe even more. So yeah, just being able to just get a massive amount of lands in play. Again, this plays really well into landfall. Just picture this, like proliferating with Evolution Sage or, Tameo, essentially. Landfall triggers, love this. Next up, Rishkar's Expertise. Again, draw cards equal the greatest power among creatures you control. Cast a spell for free out of your hand that costs 5 or less. Yeah, 6 mana, draw an absurd amount of cards that you also get to keep in your hand because, again, no maximum hand size, and also cast something for free. What's not to love about that? When it comes to drawing, though, we also have some repeatable effects that can be really detrimental to our opponents, like Esper Sentinel. Whenever opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless they pay X, where X is this creature's power. you can get this creature's power up quite easily with a lot of other effects we've already talked about, and by doing so, your opponents won't be able to pay that, and by doing so, again, you are getting at least, again, if they're casting a non-creature spell on their turn, hey, 1 check the box out of the 2 that you need on every single turn. Speaking of which, Mystic Remora, another card. This one you have to pay to keep it around, but yeah, you're in Simic. You probably have a lot of ways to ramp, right? And so do that. Cumulative upkeep. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card unless they pay 4. This is very effective early game, obviously, but also, yeah, hey, if your opponents are casting those spells, you're going to be drawing more cards and ensuring that you're hitting that amount. Archivist of Agma, yeah, another good repeatable draw effect for you. 2/2 flash, your opponent searches their library, gain 1 life, draw a card. Yeah, of course, this works against your opponent's tutors. It also works against any of their land ramp, essentially. So yeah, rampant growth. It also works against any of their fetch lands. So yeah, Evolving Wilds, all those essentially. People search their libraries more often than you think. So yeah, this is basically, hey, cool, free card advantage and also life gain, lovely. But again, get half of the card draw that you need on a turn, essentially guaranteed with this if an opponent is searching their library. Maybe even both if they search the library twice. Congratulations. Rhystic Study, yeah, don't need to tell you this is a very good and pretty broken card. Opponent casts a spell, you draw a card unless they pay 1. Basically a taxing effect, then players don't like to pay taxes. So yeah, you're probably going to be drawing a lot of cards with this. And again, when you are doing, you're checking that box and you're getting closer and closer and closer to the amount that you need to get those counters on your commander. Archmage Emeritus, whenever you're casting it into a sorcery or copying one, draw a card. So again, just getting benefited for casting those spells throughout the game. And again, on your opponent's turns, you're casting instants. Congratulations, you draw cards to replace those cards you just cast, and also get closer to that amount that you need, or just get the amount that you need every single turn, basically guaranteed. Consecrated Sphinx, when an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2. Gross. Yeah, this one, again, is essentially guaranteed, at least on your opponent's turns, you are hitting that 2-card amount because they're going to be drawing a card on their turn. When they do, you draw 2. And then when you do, you get 2 counters on your commander. It's a crazy good card. And of course, you take advantage of all those cards that you're getting because you have no maximum hand size. So you don't have to discard any of them, which can be a, not downside to this, but like, I guess it's just, this doesn't have maximum hand size, which would make it even more absurd. Moving on. Alchemist Proth, Master Sleuth, a 3/3, enters battlefield, investigates. So another clue, yay. Also, you can utilize clues very effectively with this. Pay X, white, blue, blue, tap, sacrifice a clue, draw X cards, get X life. Basically, Sphinx's Revelation, repeatable on something, lovely. Again, your commander makes you clues. This says, hey, let's sacrifice those clues for an absurd amount of card draw. So again, make sure you hit at least 2, obviously. But of course, being able to just draw an absurd amount of cards, keep those in your hand thanks to your infinite hand size. What's not to love about that? And of course, finally, Forensic Gadgeteer, a 2/3 Vidalcan Artificer Detective. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate. Activate abilities of artifacts you control, cost 1 less to activate. Can't reduce the amount of mana, and that costs less than 1 mana. So again, whenever you're casting any artifact spells, congratulations, here's an extra clue. Utilize that however you need to. But also, yeah, now sacrificing clues just costs 1 instead of 2, which is huge. Pay 1 to draw a card instead of paying 2 to draw a card. Much more effective. Twice as effective, one might say. So yeah, a very good card to consider. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on these Precon upgrades. Again, if you're interested in any of these upgrades, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below as well. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different directions that you can go with this one, and a lot of things to really play into that the Precon might go in a certain direction, and you're welcome to go in that direction. But also, yeah, don't be afraid to take a step back and say, okay, how can I make the most out of this commander? Maybe I need to give it more ways to get through. Maybe I need more ways to give it double strike. Maybe I need more ways to take advantage of its power. Maybe I need more ways to take advantage of the clues. There's a lot of different things that you can consider. Some cards that weren't included in the Precons for one reason or another, and ways to upgrade it. So yeah, make sure you're considering these cards. Make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.